Once upon a time, in a land of vineyards and valleys, two riders set out to meet. They came not as knights with banners, nor as heroes with destinies foretold, but as friends bound by curiosity, adventure, and the call of the open road. Their journey carried them through castles in the clouds and walled cities below, across golden plains and along the restless sea. They traced the spine of mountains, wandered crooked streets, and followed the hum of their machines into places both strange and familiar. But as with all true tales, the road was not without shadows. Fate, patient and quiet, waited for its moment. This, then, is the journey of friends upon their iron horses, of triumphs, storms, and a sudden turn that would test their resolve. This is the tale of two riders. Our story begins, as many good stories do, on a bright morning in Florence. Dean had just arrived in the city of cobblestones and cappuccinos, and there at the tram station, he met Matthew, his friend of nearly a decade.
Buongiorno.
Oh boy!
What's up?
All the way halfway across the world.
It had been 8 months since their last adventure together, but their reunion felt effortless, like a conversation paused mid-sentence and picked up again without hesitation. Now at last, the long-promised adventure had come, a motorbike journey through Italy. They boarded a bus southward, packs heavy on their backs, winding through the Tuscan hills. Vineyards appeared and disappeared, and small villages crowned the ridges. With each bend, anticipation grew. This was where the dream would truly begin. In Greve, they arrived at the small courtyard where their motorcycles awaited.
Beautiful.
3 Royal Enfield classics stood gleaming in the sunlight, freshly polished, chrome catching every ray, engines tuned to perfection. Every detail spoke of care: spotless paint, well-oiled chains, leather seats that looked tended like heirlooms. The bikes weren't just machines, they were invitations. Dean and Matthew slung their packs over their shoulders, mounted up, and rolled out of Greve. The first turns were tentative, but soon the rhythm returned, and the road opened like a story finally being told. Not long after, the skies turned. Clouds gathered, and rain fell sharp and sudden. They took shelter beneath a tall pine tree, joined by a red Fiat, the exact color of a child's toy, and laughed at their sodden fortune. Rain, after all, was the proper baptism of any great journey. Just as quickly, the rain passed, leaving the air cool and fresh, as if Tuscany had blessed their journey. By afternoon, they reached Siena. The city rose from the hills, walled and proud, flags fluttering from stone towers. They parked the bikes near the old gates and set off on foot. Up the cobbled streets they walked, past storefronts and archways, until they emerged into the Piazza del Campo, wide, open, and alive with chatter. Restaurants spilled onto the square, children darted across the gravel, and tourists tilted their heads upward at the centuries-old buildings. Dean and Matthew wandered, exploring staircases and side streets that twisted like labyrinths. Finally, they returned to their bikes, set on an escape from the maze. They headed out, following the directions set forth by their devices. Up the cobblestone and through slim streets lined with family flags they rode, turning down a new walkway undiscovered, and then another. Only then did they stumble into a small transgression. Following a turn too far, they found themselves riding through a section where something seemed askew. Lined with residents and walkers who looked at them curiously. Why are these two here? Having accidentally found themselves in a restricted zone, the mistake was clear. They turned back, leaving Siena behind and taking with them the thrill of riding where perhaps they shouldn't have. From there they sought out the L'Eroica, the famed white gravel roads that cut through the Tuscan countryside, away from tour buses and highways. Now, with the late afternoon sun painting everything in amber, they could finally run free.
I'm alive! And I see things mighty clear today. I'm alive! I'm alive! And I'm breathing clean, fresh air today. I'm alive! Yes, I am. I'm no stone. I'm alive. And I'm no rock. I'm alive. No piece of metal, y'all.
By dusk, they arrived in Montalcino. They parked the bikes, shoulders aching, but spirits full, and found themselves a small pizzeria.
All in all, stoked out of 10 kind of day. I think I definitely need to get better on the bike. And our packing situation was not ideal.
What an adventure it was. And it's crazy to think that we are going to do 7 more days of this.
Pizza, a shared beer, and streets glowing softly in the evening light. It was the perfect end to the first day of their adventure, the beginning of a story they had waited years to tell. Morning broke over Montalcino, the hilltop town still quiet, as women leaned from windows to water flower boxes, and Vespas rested lazily on the warm cobblestones. Dean and Matthew packed their backpacks once again, this time strapping them to the back of their motorcycles with care, and eased them down the steep slope out of town. The engines hummed steadily, a promise of the long road ahead. They rode first through tree-shaded lanes, the air still cool before the land began to open. The mountains softened into plains, and soon the Mediterranean appeared in the distance, bright and endless. Not long after, they were walking the promenade of Castiglione della Pescaia. They walked further, out to the picturesque red lighthouse outlined by the blue sky, and saw families heading out on their boats, and bronze men tempting the water's edge. Croissants and cappuccinos were their breakfast, taken at a beach bar where sand clung to sandals, and time moved slowly. For a while, they simply watched the rhythm of beach life, savoring how different it felt from the hills they had left behind. From there, the road hugged the coast. They wound past Grosseto and Orbetello, small towns where orange rooftops clustered around ancient churches.
We're about to go into this really cool like cliff face beach town vibe. So yeah, looking forward to that.
Porto Santo Stefano, they settled on a harbor wall to grab a sip of water and soak in the views. The town was bustling, and holiday-goers were living their Mediterranean dreams as they fluttered about in the shallow. Climbing out of town, the road curved higher and higher. Dean and Matthew stopped at a pull-off, looking out at the horizon, the kind of view that insists on silence. Not long after, hunger set in, and they hurried down the mountain. Entering Orbitello, they ducked into a trattoria.
Some amazing riding through the coasts of Tuscany, getting to see Italy in all of its glory. Yeah, it's been really cool, just like being able to be next to the ocean and seeing all the buildings and the cliff faces like looming over it. So yeah, having a good time. Personally, Matthew, how are you?
I've been having a mare of a day. My glasses broke. Almost lost my wallet, which is great. But life is good. I'm drinking a beer. I needed it. And I'm good.
Ahead lay the highway to Rome, a long, fast stretch that demanded everything from their machines and more from themselves. They opened the throttles, pushing the Enfields harder than they ever had, 95, 100, 110 kilometers per hour. Wind roared against helmets, trucks loomed and passed, and the miles thundered by. Each overtaking car was a reminder of how thin the line of safety truly was. And yet beneath the fear was exhilaration, the sense that they were flying. By late afternoon, Rome appeared. They navigated traffic and cobblestones, weaving past buses and Vespas until at last they reached their lodging just north of the Vatican. There was no time to rest. They set off on foot, pulled forward by history itself.
All right, so we've made it to the streets of Rome. I'm looking like your local Outback tour guide. Matthew's looking like your local Berlin techno photographer.
I'm a promoter. I'll make you famous.
So we're fitting in very well here right now. But yeah, excited to be in Rome. We're just gonna go walk around, explore the city, go check out the Vatican, go find some cool things. And yeah, hold hands.
First, the Vatican, its walls impossibly vast, with the basilica perfectly silhouetted by the setting sun.
Apparently this guy called the Pope. He's got a really big house. Do you think they've ever done like a MTV Cribs with the Pope? Or do you think that's kind of illegal?
Then the Pantheon, sudden and astonishing, as visitors clamored to their walls, and florists took advantage of the traffic. The Trevi Fountain sparkled, coins glinting at its base as tourists pressed forward to make wishes. Cats in windows, like characters from a Disney movie, watched as they passed in the cobblestone streets down below. At the Spanish Steps, they paused with Peroni in hand, watching the life of the city unfold. Couples kissing, children racing up the stairs, street performers filling the square with excitement and curiosity. Rome was alive in every corner, every turn, every echo of laughter. Dinner was pasta and wine at a restaurant tucked in an alley, a guitarist strumming nearby as twilight deepened into night. And when they finally walked back through the narrow streets, the city still hummed, as if it might never sleep. Morning in Rome began with the basilica basking in soft golden light, its dome glowing as the city slowly stirred awake.
Good morning.
Good morning. Day number 3?
Yeah.
Yeah. Heading to Naples. Bikes are strapped up, packing's better. Stoked out of 10. Gonna see some ancient ruins that some people call, what's it called? Some tourist thing. It's called like the Colosseum or something. I'm joking. So yeah, it's gonna be a good day.
They rolled out into the streets, weaving through alleys and over cobblestones, following the rhythm of Roman traffic. The city opened and closed around them like a labyrinth, until suddenly, around a bend, the Colosseum appeared. Immense, weathered, impossibly grand, it filled their view in an instant. They slowed and simply looked. To ride through Rome and be met by this monument felt less like travel and more like time bending. Southward they went, out past the aqueducts stretching across the land, like the bones of some forgotten giant. Dust rose beneath their boots as they parked the bikes and wandered into the open field. There, half buried in the grass, lay a scuffed football. The aqueduct loomed in the background, silent and eternal, watching their game like an old spectator who had seen 1,000 such moments before. And for those few minutes, the road paused. There was only dust, laughter, and the thud of a football in the Italian sun.
Batuque brasileiro, na roda tem pandeiro, bate meu coração, no ritmo da canção. Batuque brasileiro, na roda tem pandeiro, bate meu coração, no ritmo da canção. Batuque brasileiro.
How was that?
Honestly, a highlight of the trip, and I'm sweaty, but I've wanted to come to this field for like 6 years, and we've never had like transport. You can't really get here. It's not like anything around. So now that we had the bikes, I was like, Dean, I think we should just go to this place. And he's like, oh, that looks sick. And we went there, and it's way fucking cooler than I could have imagined. Loved it.
The road carried them onward toward the coast. By midday, they reached Terracina, a town pressed between cliff and sea. They ordered focaccia and water, sitting at a small table while the Mediterranean shimmered beyond. Families sprawled across the wide beach, umbrellas planted in rows. From there, the road began to climb, curling high above the shoreline. It was one of those stretches that seems designed for joy. Cliffs to the left, sea to the right. Every bend a fresh revelation. Dean thought of Cape Town's Chapman's Peak, though this road carried its own Italian character. In a valley of farmland, they paused to photograph the fields, but a farmer approached, waving his arms. For a moment, it seemed a quarrel might spark.
And he's shouting at us and saying things, and I'm trying to translate in broken English, Italian. I didn't know what was going on. So I took my phone out, and thank goodness for Google Translate. Took Google Translate, typed in, "Hey, so sorry, we were driving, we like the area, we like your farm. We thought you might want to take some photos or whatever." And while we're talking about this, like, Dean is currently like hiding in the bushes with his camera, and he pretty much Google translated that he had a pit bull, and he was scared it was going to bite us, and he thought we were trespassing on his farm. So clearly he didn't mind us being there once he saw the Google Translate stuff. So thank goodness.
By late afternoon, Napoli appeared, first as docks and smokestacks, rail yards and warehouses. The approach was harsh, unromantic, but within its tangled alleys, the city revealed its true character. Flags strung from balconies, scooters darting like sparks, voices murmuring rising from open windows. They wound through the maze of streets, dodging traffic, until they reached their lodging. The room itself bore a curious decoration. A statue of David in unmistakable prominence, greeting them with a marble stare. They laughed, shrugged, and left it to stand guard over their bags. Hunger called them into the streets, where they found pizza in its birthplace. Down an alley where mopeds roared and neon lights flickered, they ordered pies blistered from wood-fired ovens, paired with cold beer. They ate on stone steps, laughing as the city's chaos swirled around them.
10 out of 10 pizza. So good.
Arguably the best pizza I've ever had.
Best pizza you've ever had?
Arguably.
Napoli knows how to do pizza.
There's one pizza that triumphs it, but I think they're on equal standpoint. Into the lady and just said, "What do you recommend?" She said, "This pizza just has onions." Great. Okay, I'll have that one. Little did I know that she had literally introduced me to like a fucking slice of heaven. Excuse the pun. It was so fucking good. The city actually kind of rocks. It was quite deceptive when Dean and I drove in. It was like crazy. It felt like we were in like back in like South Africa or like a third world country, because we came from the industrial complex of Napoli into the city instead of coming from like the nice coastal town. And then as we came in, like we were like, and everyone was driving everywhere. It was chaos. So this is organized chaos. And then we got to our Airbnb. It was really hard to get in. There was like 50 different doors. And I was like, I wasn't too sure about it. But then as we left and we like took 2 roads away from our B&B, it just made sense. And I was like, the city's fucking great. That's my food review. Got nothing to do with the food.
Napoli felt less like a destination and more like a character, bold and unashamed, welcoming them into its story. Morning in Napoli began not with engines, but with a walk. The city was already alive.
We are starting the day off in Napoli, going for a walk. Just got a cappuccino and some croissants again. That seems to be the staple of the breakfast for today. And yeah, now just exploring the city before we have to check out of our hotel. But it's another beautiful day, nice and cool. It's meant to be a little bit rainy, but it hasn't rained yet, so we'll see if it does.
By mid-morning, they packed up and rode out, rolling through the streets of Napoli with a refreshed perspective. Eventually, the road turned upward, winding into the mountains. Here, the land grew wide and green, ridges stacked one upon another, peaks hazy in the distance. Each bend revealed a new valley, each climb a cooler wind. It was a road made for riders, endless curves, sweeping views, and the steady hum of motorcycles carrying them higher. At midday, rain clouds gathered. The sky darkened, and the first drops spattered on their visors. They pulled into a small roadside restaurant where a group of seasoned touring bikers were already parked, their machines gleaming with panniers and windshields. Dean and Matthew arrived on their simple Royal Enfields, packs still strapped to their backs. One of the men looked up, smirked, and in a heavy Italian accent asked, "Why this bike?" The others laughed, not unkindly, just amused. Dean and Matthew laughed too, shrugging as if to say, "Why not?"
What's going on?
The rain has hindered our plans, and we essentially turned back a couple of 100 meters because we saw this big storm on the horizon, and we stopped and we saw a bunch of bikers, and they were chatting to us, and they said, "Go inside, have some food." And we've come here, and the kitchen was about to close, and they didn't give us prices or menus. They just say, "Lamb, what? Choose."
We really are on an adventure now. Not like we probably never would have stopped here otherwise, but the rain forced us to, and I don't think 95% of people here can probably speak English. It's very, very out here in the middle of nowhere, but having the best time.
A waiter, weary but kind, offered lamb with vegetables. Dean tasted it and thought of his father's fires back home. It was the comfort he needed. They ate slowly, listening to the storm outside, feeling the satisfaction of belonging to the road, even if their bikes were humbler than the rest. When the rain eased, they climbed again, stopping at a castle perched high on the hillside. Stone walls jutted against the sky, weathered and proud. As they rested, a young man on a bicycle approached, smiling. He was from Pakistan, curious about their trip, eager to talk. He spoke warmly, telling his own story of living in Italy, and for a few minutes their paths overlapped. 3 travelers meeting by chance at the foot of a castle. By late afternoon, they reached Salmona and checked into their hotel. The town sat quiet in the mountain air. They left their bags behind, then set out once more, this time light, free, ready to ride until the sun was gone. The road narrowed as it reached Pacentro. Stone houses pressed in. It felt as though they had ridden into a painting, into a town unchanged for centuries, where the streets still whispered of medieval days. Climbing higher still, they left the town behind, chasing the ridges above it. The road twisted into hairpins, the kind that demanded attention, but rewarded with views so wide they made you laugh inside your helmet. For hours they rode like this, caught in a rhythm, engine, curve, view, sky. The golden hours stretched impossibly long, as though Italy itself had decided to hold time still. Pacentro, lit from beneath by flickering lamps, glowed in the valley below, its towers standing like sentinels as the rest of the world darkened. At last the light gave way to blue, the sky cooled, the ridges silhouetted themselves against the horizon, and the first stars appeared faintly overhead.
So it is the end of day 4, and we've just had the most beautiful ride through the mountains, like some of the most picturesque riding I've ever had in my life. And yeah, just so grateful that we were able to do this, that there was like barely anyone on the road. It was so quiet. So we were able to just go up and down and up and down the whole time. It was, yeah, one of the most fun parts of the trip for me, at least.
Closing thoughts. Life is good. We took some corners. We had a good time. I mean, there's very few things in life that can happen without a lot of planning, and today was one of them. And it was good. I enjoyed it.
Headlights cut the dark, beams bouncing across the stone walls and guardrails. The laughter from earlier gave way to quiet focus, the kind of silence only riders know when the road demands everything. At last they returned to Salmona, tired, chilled, but filled with the kind of quiet joy that only long rides bring. Back at the hotel, they laid out a simple dinner: bread, cheese, salami, champagne.
Dude, I look like I've smashed a few beer pong games in my life right now. This is not the fit. Slowly. Let's go, I'm a sommelier with a €3 champagne. Al dente. Pour like a simpleton. Delicious.
That's the worst pour I've seen in my life.
2 fingers.
That's horrendous.
That's a good beer. That's a proper good beer. Cheers.
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 It's
€3 champagne. That's €3 champagne.
So it's day 5, and we are taking a hike up to Rocca Castiglio. We thought we could drive up there, but the castle is closed to cars, so we got to take a half-an-hour walk up to the top, which isn't bad. We're in a beautiful little mountain town. The ride up here was incredible, and yeah, super excited to see this medieval ancient castle on the hill. And even just look at this right here. Just like everywhere you look, it's just so beautiful.
The path wound through grass and stone, lined with purple wildflowers swaying in the breeze. Other travelers made the pilgrimage too, families, couples, solo hikers, all moving slowly upward, each step toward the fortress carrying a small sense of ceremony. At the top, Rocca Calascio stood proud, its towers weathered by centuries, yet still holding the dignity of watchmen. The church beside it leaned into the slope. It felt less built than conjured. From the battlements, the view spilled in every direction. Valleys like seas of green, distant ridges hazy with morning light. Dean and Matthew sat on the stones, catching their breath, watching the horizon. For a few minutes, the motorcycles were forgotten, the road forgotten. Only the stillness of the castle remained, a place suspended outside of time. Back at the bikes, hunger pressed, and they dug into yesterday's remains.
Well, this is lunch for today. We have some bread and leftover cheese from our dinner last night, and I've just broken it into chunks. and put it on this like focaccia kind of bread. And it's actually quite good.
Yeah. I mean, considering how much we've been paying for food.
Simple food, but the kind that tastes
Italian way.
perfect only when earned. From Roccacalacio, the road dipped and curved, carrying them into a landscape that opened wider and wider until it was no longer mountains, but something altogether different. The plateau revealed itself suddenly, Campo Imperatore, a place so vast it seemed to unroll forever. The road stretched like a ribbon across it, unbroken, perfectly drawn, vanishing into the horizon. Dean and Matthew slowed at first, taking it in, then rolled on the throttle.
Lay a map down on the table, point out where I wanna go. See the California redwoods or the Mississippi flow. See the bears up in the Yukon. Ask them how they weather the cold. See the Arizona desert or the snowy Vermont hills. See the peregrine in Michigan and tell them how I feel. See the white-tailed deer running through the fields of my childhood. Oh.
The ride became hypnotic, curve after curve, rise after rise, the plateau giving just enough change to keep them leaning and swaying in rhythm. They didn't speak, they didn't need to. Everything that mattered was already there. For that long stretch of time, it didn't feel like travel anymore. It felt like arrival. By the time they descended from the mountains, where the Adriatic shimmered silver under the last of the light, Pescara greeted them not with the clamor of crowds, but with a hush, as though the town itself had exhaled after a long day. Umbrellas still dotted the sand, waiting for tomorrow. Families lingered here and there, some playing soccer, tennis on the sand. It wasn't deserted. It was resting. The Adriatic lapped calmly against the shore, the beach glowing faintly under the first hints of evening light. After the wild energy of Napoli and the vast openness of Campo Imperatore, Pescara felt like an interlude, a town catching its breath at the edge of the sea. Here, the journey slowed, as if to let the riders gather themselves before the road asked again.
My body is really feeling it now. I think we both are. We did about 4 hours of riding today. It's a lot. We aren't used to riding bikes all the time, but still having the best time. But yeah, definitely need to take some time to relax and chill. So we're in a beach town now, so we might go just sit at the beach for the next 3 hours.
Morning in Pescara arrived with the hush of the Adriatic still lingering in the air. Dean and Matthew set out along the coast, the road running parallel to the sea. It wasn't the fast highway route that others might have chosen. It was slower, narrower, but alive with small details. Fishing boats pulled onto the sand, laundry drifting from balconies, old men sitting on benches with the patience of the tide.
Colombia, tierra querida, himno de fe y armonía. Cantemos, cantemos todos, himno de paz y alegría.
Farther north, they pulled into a small shop and bought sandwiches. Although much needed, the rest was short-lived. Then came the tunnels. ending. The air cooled, headlights blurred, and Dean drifted into a trance. For a moment, he forgot he was riding, forgot the weight of the machine beneath him, and the realization jarred him awake. He blinked hard, shifted in his seat, gripped the throttle tighter, and pulled himself back into the present. The tunnels, he thought, were like the underworld, a place not meant for lingering.
So we're taking a little break on the side of the highway right now. The Italians really said, why would we build a road around the mountains when we can just go through the mountains? How many tunnels do you think we went through?
16.
I'd say at least 12. Probably more like 25. That was a lot.
By late afternoon, they climbed into Perugia. The city rose in layers, crooked streets stacked one over another, buildings leaning in close as if sharing secrets. As they arrived, rain swept suddenly across the rooftops, drumming against stone. Only to vanish moments later. In its wake, the sun returned, painting the city in gold.
I think we just found the set of the next Disney movie. What's your thoughts on Perugia so far?
Almost like a Monet painting. It's like everything, the light hits, it casts these shadows and the windows are misaligned. Like, I mean, check like that one over there. It's just like they're all leaning in and it kind of looks like everything's warped. It's quite cool. Proper old shit. Fucking love it.
As night settled over Perugia, the city seemed almost theatrical. Streets washed in amber light, shadows long and soft, laughter echoing faintly from plazas. It was a fitting close to a day that had begun by the sea, carried them through darkness, and ended in a city that gleamed like gold. The last morning began in Perugia, with bags packed in practiced rhythm. Yet beneath the routine, there was a quiet awareness. This was the final day. They set off early, the city still drowsy, riding through empty streets, touched with first light. A cafe by Lake Trasimeno offered their breakfast.
Croissants again.
Back on the road, they rode through rolling countryside. The sun warmed, the wind softened, and he reflected on the journey, the food, the wine, the cobblestones, the slowness of Italy compared to home. He thought of future trips, India, Patagonia, New Zealand, dreams multiplying as one came to an end. For a time, it felt as though the trip would close gently. One more day of curves and conversations, of easy riding and simple meals. But beneath the calm, something restless lingered, as though the road itself had one more story to tell. They turned onto a gravel road Dust rose from their tires, the path narrow, uneven. Dean rode ahead, the rhythm steady. Behind him, Matthew followed, the crunch of gravel close at hand. Then, in an instant, it shifted. The sound came first.
Not alright.
I broke my leg.
Eh?
I've broken my leg.
Oh shit.
Oh, I'm such a fucking idiot.
Just lay there, just lay there. Ciao, parli inglese?
I will connect you with an English translation service. Hold the line, please, okay?
Grazie. We need an ambulance, please. We have a motorcycle accident.
Below the knee, there's a big dent in my leg, gash, some blood.
The ride, so steady, so joyful, had fractured in an instant. Time stretched strangely in the waiting. The sun above felt indifferent, still shining warmly on vineyards and stone, while for them everything had narrowed to this one gravel road, this one turn of fate.
Tell me what's going on now.
So we went from 0 to 100 real quick. I had my camera strap over my shoulder and went over a bump and then got hooked, pulled my whole entire tire across my body, and then I went straight into this wall. So currently I have a gaping gash in my leg. I told my parents that I wouldn't get hurt on this trip. How's it? Nothing much. I have, well, to put it bluntly, I'm in a little bit of a pickle. I'm just letting you guys know. I'm going to be on, just waiting for an ambulance to fetch me, and then I'm heading to Siena. Yeah. No, it's deep in there. But yeah, it's PG YouTube audiences. But yeah, I don't know if I'm still on shock or not. So I am currently just hoping for the best.
When the sirens finally approached, their wail carried both relief and finality.
Big one.
The medics worked quickly, lifting Matthew onto a stretcher, cracking small jokes as they went, their ease a comfort in the strangeness of the moment. With a smile that was half grimace, Matthew gave a thumbs up before the doors closed. And then the ambulance was gone, carrying him away, leaving Dean alone with the bikes and the silence.
Okay, so alone for the first time in 7 days, which feels a bit weird, with two bikes here. So the plan of action now is I need to drive 50 minutes north to Motezza, where we rented the bikes from, go meet up with the owner, and he's going to give me a ride back down here so we can collect the other bike. So I got about 3 hours ahead of me of riding. Okay. Safe driving now. Alright, here we go. Back to Greve.
There was now only one mission. Get the motorcycles back to Motezza in Greve. Simple in plan, immense in weight. He was tired, hungry, thirsty, and against the clock. It was already past 2. 52 minutes to Greve times 3 would just barely get him back before 5:30. He put his head down and rode. This was no longer a joyride. This was a mission. Each corner was taken with sharpened focus. Each mile demanded complete attention. No wandering thoughts. Only the hum of the engine, the turn of the road, the mantra repeating in his head. Get the bikes home. It might sound dramatic, he thought later, but in that moment, the urgency was absolute. Adrenaline and fatigue mixed strangely, sharpening his vision and tightening his grip. After many twists and turns through the Tuscan valleys, Grieve appeared. Gerhard was waiting, calm as a stone in a river. And then they set off again, back down the road to the fallen bike. For the first time since the crash, Dean had nothing to do but sit on the back while Gerhard steered. The relief was immediate. His mind uncoiled, and reflection poured in. He replayed the accident again and again, trying to reconstruct it like a slow-motion rendering. But the truth was, only Matthew would ever know what had really happened. As the countryside slipped past, Dean thought about presence. How, in small moments of distraction, when tired, rushed, or unfocused, errors creep in. A forgotten glove, an unclicked stand, an indicator left on for miles. Perhaps this was one of those times, that attention is the price of admission. 45 minutes in, Dean looked left. A storm cloud, black and swollen, was drifting toward them.
So ended up getting the bikes, got hit by the storm on the way back, but made it back with about 10 minutes to spare. And now I'm on my way to the bus stop to catch the bus back to Florence. What an adventure.
The bus pulled in on time, and Dean collapsed into a seat, letting his body finally surrender. Mission complete. Florence welcomed him back at 6:30. By 7, he was in a hotel room meant for 2, but now prepared for 1. Matthew was still in Siena, stitched and treated, no bones broken, fortunate, despite everything. A scar would remain. It was not the ending he had imagined for Florence, but it was the ending he had been given. And like all adventures, it left behind not only memories, but reflections, questions, and a hunger for what might come next.
Make the footage.
The shower door doesn't exist currently, so I said, it's fine, just it started as a joke, it's fine, just put me outside and spray me down. And now the joke is no longer a joke.
The leg, thank you.
The leg, thank you.
It did not end as stories usually do, with triumph and laughter at the close. It ended in silence, in reflection, in the knowledge that dreams, when finally lived, do not follow scripts. They stumble, they fall, they sting and bruise and heal crooked. And yet, this was the very thing that made it a true adventure. For a good adventure is not the one that goes to plan, but the one that reminds you in every sharp and tender way that you are alive. And so the story of Dean and Matthew in Italy concludes, not with a happy ending, but with a promise. A promise that the tale is not done.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
Wow.
Okay, stop.